It looks really fun out there.
This is far more fascinating.
Okay.
Well, all right, you guys. I know you've all come prepared with some questions, right? No? Really? You could do better than that. Come on now. No, seriously, somebody has to have a question. You're killing me. I see a hand. Yay.
Over the course of the movies, it's fascinating to see how Nancy kind of grows and how she really is in the opposite number for Freddie in a lot of ways, and like the only one that can truly defeat him, or at least last routine, I guess. How would you like to describe the relationship between those characters?
I talked to Wes Craven a lot about what his design was when he had the 4 teenagers start and one by one get kind of peeled off. And Wes told me, he said, the 4 teenagers are really one teenager, and they each represent different aspects of our personality, I guess. And so you have the Tina and the Rod and the Glenn and the Nancy are all kind of one. Like if you put them all together, it'd just be like one. And Freddie strips us all away to the final part of us that is able to fight, which is the Nancy, and she has this quality where she's the only one who actually wants to face what's happening to her. And so Wes didn't want, and in this way, like I'm really intent upon getting across this message that the fact that Nancy's a girl isn't really the most important part about her. The fact is that she's the one teenager in the group that puts forward this aspect, which is facing your fear. And I think it could have been a boy too, but it was Wes's idea to have a girl be that particular character. But all 4 are so interlinked together. And if you start thinking about the movie that way, the messages that you see with, Rod's character kind of being the more troublemaker, and Glenn's character being kind of obsessed with food and sex and girls and all of that, and then Tina like also being very distractible through, needing certain things in her life. It really makes sense, and then you can start looking at yourself like that, So I learned a lot from Wes talking to him about this movie. Yes.
How familiar were you with the Freddy Krueger makeup and appearance before shooting? A lot of horror movies, they like to keep the killer away from the stars before they get into it, so it's like a genuine kind of scare going on. But did you see any concept art of the makeup or what he was going to be, Freddy Krueger?
I never did. Yeah, I didn't. I guess in my mind I didn't even know he was going to be fully made up, because when I did see him, I was shocked that he had to wear all that makeup. I had no idea that they were going to make him into this, really burned, really hideous guy. And when I read this script, I just don't have that big of an imagination, because I couldn't ever think of it being much more than just a really kind of scary looking dude. I didn't think he was going to be this iconic looking burned makeup. Did you see it the first day you worked?
Yeah, the thing about Robert is immediately you loved Robert. He was funny and he was just doing V, right?
Yeah, that's
So he was brilliant, like a Shakespearean dude. And so I was like, he's Freddy? But I didn't really see Freddy till I died, so I saw him in jail.
Yeah.
But then I was like, okay, so then it's only when I saw the movie that I went, oh shit, that was a lot of work. But we'd come in and he'd be doing makeup since 5 or 6.
You would never see him in the morning. They had their own room where they did the makeup, so. He usually would appear on set and always laughing and joking.
Yeah,
we always were having a good time.
He was just a great sense of humor, so it was like you weren't really
Scared of him.
Yeah. But when they said action, he was like this other thing.
Unforgettable.
They should have never done a remake without him.
Right.
That's right.
Hey.
Right.
right here.
I know it's a rumor I've heard that you'd be interested in reprising your role back into the series. Can you talk any more about that rumor? What you envision it as?
Well, I
or-
mean, people have asked me the question, and I just don't know in what reality I wouldn't want to do a movie. I don't care if it's Nancy or if it was Betty. I don't care. Someone wants to offer me a movie, of course I would take it. So this question in and of itself is kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, I mean, if anybody comes up to me and offers me a great part like a Nancy Thompson, or, it would be extremely hard to say no, and I just don't know why anybody would. So the answer doesn't have to really do with Nightmare on Elm Street as much as it does, my desire to, continue acting as a career. So, but of course I would love to do it. It would be great maybe, what if you got on set and you just see like it's a total disaster in the making or something?
Halloween
I mean, there's a lot of
2018.
fear,
Yeah, Halloween 2018. All I gotta say.
All right, who else has one? Thought I saw a hand. There we go.
Alright, so this is for both of you. Aside from Jason, what kind of like horror mashup would you guys like to see first?
Jason ain't shit.
Horror matchup?
Jason. No, Tom's gonna kick my ass. Tom's scary.
Do you have a horror matchup?
Oh, what's that mean?
Like a Freddy versus Jason, but a different grouping of scary characters that would have like a.
I want to see Trump and Freddy. That'd be awesome with the Freddy gets Trump's hair and fucks it up. Trump tweets. No, Trump can't go to sleep because he's tweeting, so Freddy's like, go to sleep, fucker. Why can't he go to sleep? I want to kill him. He tweets all night.
Oh my God, I can't give that answer. I'm not even gonna try. Next. I can't answer that question. I'm not an expert in horror. I'm not the one to ask that question.
Well, I can think of one. I mean, when you guys were shooting it, did you have any idea that it was going to become this huge pop cultural phenomenon? Or was
We
it
had
just,
no
just a
idea.
movie? And then here it is.
I mean, we were just the first independent kind of horror movie that they had. I mean, that's not true. There was other independent horror, but
But I was reminded that they ran out of money, we couldn't get paid, remember that? And then the sister bailed us out, so it was a little bit like, holy shit, we're in a movie, but it might not get finished.
right, it might not even air or be in a movie theater, and because they sold the rights to a video, like a VHS company, which we had never even heard of that. Like, what is a VHS? And they're like, oh, there's this new way of selling movies where we sell the rights to a company that's going to put it on videotape.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that's a bad sign.
I think we were on the edge before Roger Corman was coming around, putting everything on
video.
selling it
Yeah.
on VHS, so we made the theaters, and we were like, hey.
Yeah. And, I mean, we did pretty well, but nothing like the money people are making now. I think opening weekend was $4 million. Right now, that would be considered a huge failure, but I don't know how that would translate into
I think-
2018 dollars.
Afterwards, there was a like Johnny was friends. We were all friends. We're still, I imagine we're still friends. But it's a kind of a connection that we gave birth. Wes gave
to
birth,
something, yeah.
and we'll always be connected, even though we don't see each other. It's like, hey, nice to see you. But Johnny gave me a script right during I think Nightmare was an explosion for everybody. Though we didn't know where it was going to go, we were all family. Wes, Mimi, Johnny, and then the careers separated us. Actually,
Yeah. But it's like going to your high school reunion whenever we're together, and we were that age too. We were 18, 19 years old. So I think Amanda was the oldest of all of us. She was in her 20s, but
she had just done
Silverado.
Silverado.
She was the superstar of our
She was with
quadrant.
Kevin Costner.
But she was also with this guy named, I remember him. He was a big star on General Hospital.
Oh, really?
And he played kind of a jerk on General Hospital. I remember, how can you be with that guy? He's such a jerk, but it was just his character that he played. But so she was the movie star of our group because she had done so much work and she was, getting offers left and right to do all sorts of shows and so I looked up to her a lot and she taught me a lot. So did Robert. Robert was also pretty on his way in his career at that point.
Yeah, I think, after Wes left, I would say, you're the glue of the thing, of the whole franchise. And she's the creative one. I've always looked at. Always something comes out of Nancy, the book. She gave me a role in the Sleep.
Oh yeah,
in Sleep.
Never Sleep Again.
I apologize for that because I was really bitter.
Were you?
I think it was a part of me that was bitter because you could think, okay, I'm not a victim, but I could go victim, and I hate doing that, but you could go victim and go, oh, I should have seen some of that money that Bob Shea made. What's the guy? The head guy of New York.
Oh yeah.
But then I became a director producer afterwards, and I'm like, no, I paid you. The rest is mine.
Well, because once you get on the other side, you kind of understand the mentality.
That's the thing.
And because truthfully, as a producer, you're putting all your money on the line for something, and if it does poorly, you suffer. If it does great, you take yourself out for
You
a
did a
steak
film,
dinner.
you've done films, and you're doing films. I've done them. Now I understand the other side, so I'm like,
Right.
no, I paid your ass.
Yeah, and I think getting Nightmare on Elm Street made was really, really tough. Bob Shea, if you've seen Never Sleep Again, the documentary, you really understand that he is the star of that documentary because you really understand that he put his whole life behind these movies, and he was selling movies out of the trunk of his car, and then he got some savings, and then he bought a script by a known guy named Wes Craven that he thought had some potential, and then he scrounged up the money and he made the movie, and he got the financing at the end when we ran out. And so it's kind of like the little red hen, like I picked the weed and ground the weed and made the bread and baked the bread and it's mine. And so I tried not to be bitter too, because I think they said it's made $500 million now. So this is a movie
And
that,
they deserve it.
yeah. But when we're young, we don't get it.
Although I'm glad that Wes, I came back with you guys when Wes did 6.
Yeah.
Six?
7.
So I was like, oh, we were back again. We're missing Johnny. And I gave Wes, I used to play racquetball with Wes. And I used to call Wes, I was dying for a job. You were always on the franchise. But I would be like, Wes,
How to get me in.
I'll give you my leather jacket if you give me a role in the Eddie Murphy movie. He gave me the role. No, I beat him in racquetball for the Eddie Murphy movie, Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
I said, if I beat you, will you bring me in for casting? He goes, all right. So I beat him. Wes was pretty messed up by then because he had knee braces and stuff with racquetball. He was an incredible racquetball player.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know this.
And then I called him up, and I think he was partnered with that McNamara girl. So I said, hey, I'll give you my leather jacket. I know it's worth a lot of money. He's like, you still got the original? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, I want to roll in the new Nightmare. And he goes, all right, I think I can put you in. So I gave him the...
Oh my gosh.
I felt bad I gave him the leather jacket because I think I could have eBayed the shit out of that. But Wes has got it. Where is he?
I don't know. His wife must have it now. She has everything now.
Over here.
Yeah. Did Bob Shea, whenever the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street 3 came along, did Bob call you to see about reprise your role as Nancy Thompson?
No, actually Wes did, because he was going to write the script and wanted to make sure I would do it before he wrote it. And or he had written maybe a first draft, and he said, I put you in it, I really want Nancy to come back. And at this point, I was just really, really thankful to have a job, and I was like, of course, I'd love to do it. And unfortunately, he wasn't asked to direct it, which I found like really kind of upsetting at first, because I trusted him so much. He was a really great director, and I didn't know anything about Chuck or, this guy whose career was really, on the move. So I think Bob Shea is a really good businessman, and you'll see that not that many people work for him twice, because he knows the second time they work for him, they're going to double their rate. And he always was trying to make these movies profitable, and it was always I don't know what relationship he and Wes had at that moment, so maybe that's why Wes didn't direct it, but it was really flattering that Wes thought so highly of my performance that he wanted that character to come back.
From my perspective, I always thought of your relationship with Wes, like Wes is like your dad or something. Like Wes was really took care of her as an actress, and he did the consistency, and he didn't sell out. And I thought, I wish, those kinds of directors are like the Scorseses to De Niro, Soderberghs to, they latch on to the actor and they go, okay, I want to see that. So that's what I saw.
Yeah, I did ask Wes like you, oh, won't you put me in that show that you're doing now, or, bring me in for this, TV series, the one that was like Nightmares.
Dream.
Or whatever.
The Dream is really Nightmare on Elm Street.
No, Scream. You mean Scream?
Scream is Nightmare on Elm Street with more money.
I know. And Wes, he didn't feel like the compulsion to put us in other movies of his. I think his vision was so strong that it's like, you're Nancy, you can always be Nancy, but you can't be anybody else. You can't be Sydney, you can't be any of the other people, so that was too bad.
Well, he was.
I would have loved to have been in one of his other
Yeah,
movies,
we were,
franchises.
I would imagine you were doing it too. I was hustling. I had his number. Okay, you want to eat sushi? Ventura Boulevard? Yeah.
Play
What are you up to?
racquetball again?
Play racquetball? But he was done with racquetball, and I couldn't
Oh,
finagle anymore.
too bad.
All right, who's got another one? Oh, see you back there.
Is it ever hard to look back on one of your first roles, and what are your first roles?
Oh, that's a great question.
Okay. Nightmare on Elm Street is my first movie role, and I had a six-pack. I've not been able to get that back. That's
As hard as he tried.
Yeah, that's my ego. But I'm so grateful where I'm at now. And I was a really messed up kid at 19 or 20 when Wes actually saved my life. Gave me the role. So that was my first, and it brought me out. I don't know. I was about to hit the unemployment line for some reason, and I got called in, and that movie saved my life. Because that started the career where it never stopped.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I guess mine, okay. My very first role I got, that had a speaking part, was in a Francis Ford Coppola movie called Rumblefish, that was shot in my hometown of Tulsa. And I had a line at a wedding scene where I'm inviting Matt Dillon to this wedding, to crash this wedding party. And I had this line, and I got me my SAG card, and that's really what I realized was the point of that whole day, is that I got my SAG card. Because it wasn't in the movie, so I didn't have to suffer from seeing myself play that part. But then the first time I saw myself was on a movie called Nickel Mountain. It was a novel by John Gardner, and I play a girl who's like 16 and gets pregnant by her boyfriend, and they're, in the country, and the dad offers, they're a rich family, and the dad offers me, $1,000 to get an abortion, and she says, no way. But she doesn't really have any means to have a baby, so the local restaurant owner, who's this kind of overweight guy, Michael Cole, who was on the Mod Squad, played him, and they get married, and she has the baby, and it's like a really sweet story. So when I saw that, the part was fantastic. It was a really, really good part. you know, you just can't believe you're seeing yourself so big and, you know, playing all these range of emotions. It was kind of shocking. And then, of course, seeing Nightmare on Elm Street was probably the second or third time I had a chance to watch myself. And I don't like it at all. I really don't. I really don't like seeing myself. But then as time goes by, I learn to like it more and more. But the very first time is, I don't know, I just feel, I always feel let down. Like, oh, I didn't do as good a job as I could have done. What about you?
I always thought she was hot. I think Weston's finished.
That has nothing to do with the question.
Oh, sorry. I
All right, got one ready.
Yeah, that's how I got my sack.
That's a great movie.
Hey, Nick, what do you remember about Gotcha?
Can you guys hear in the back? I didn't want to. Okay, so we'll do this in the back. Gotcha was actually Johnny Depp, another guy that saved my ass. He's like, dude, check out this script. And I was like, or no, maybe it's not like that. Johnny was really soft-spoken, so he's like, hey, dude, you might want to check this out. The Latin character's really good. So the guy that wrote the script was my friend, and Paul Hensler, and I was like, what? Johnny didn't, I think Johnny tested, maybe, I don't know. Some other guy tested, and then I tested, oh, the La Bamba guy, he said Morales. I did that, and then I took off. Thank God, I went right to Wildcats. And what was the question? Gotcha, yeah. Gotcha was a casualty in the theater, and this is when cable was strong, and it revived on cable. So a lot of actors at the time, it took a little bit of, it took maybe 6 months, and you would be called in for the next movie because cable was starting to be respected, and it's like, so you sucked in the theater, but hey, that dude was great on HBO or whatever. Your movie spiked in HBO, and then that's Gotcha saved me, and then I got the next movie, and then, but as Gotcha's doing this, Nightmare's getting big. And I was like, what the hell's going on over there? And then you kept doing, did you do 2?
No, I did 3.
You did 3 and 4.
And then
Did you do the series or
I did
something?
7. No, I just did 1, 3.
It looked like she was in all of them.
No, I wasn't. I wish.
But it was a franchise that was killing. And then New Line Cinema, so I always say, yeah, we created New Line Cinema. But basically New Line was the shit. Everybody was going up for all sorts of, I did Woo for New Line and all sorts of other things, but New Line was the, Gotcha was, I'm just happy to be alive and to have worked. And I want to thank all of you because all of you paid somehow for me to get a pension at Screen Actors Guild, and I'm retired.
You retired already?
I retired. So I'm 55. You can take 55 or 65. I'm saying, and it's called a haircut. So I took a haircut at 55. Means they take a chunk between now and 60. So I said, I'm retiring. I'm out. I'm out the game.
Can you ever work though?
You can work, and you got to let them know.
Got it.
But because of you guys and your parents and all that, they sent me good, and some of these cats out here weren't getting residuals in the old days. So there was a certain...
Before 65, I don't think you get residuals.
So the residuals, the producers, all of them had to pay. And that's where our actors, we get taken care of. So thank you for letting me retire. I look forward to just kicking it, Santa Monica.
I turned 55 on Wednesday, so maybe...
Woo! Do it.
On Wednesday,
Do
the
it.
17th of July, yeah.
You got to do it a month before so that they can
Holy
check.
cow, I'm late.
All right, who's got another one for him? See a hand over here.
Hey there.
They can't hear you.
So,
Oh, here you go.
I don't know how much of like a question this is, but just like, so Heather specifically, what are, I don't know, your thoughts on the legacy of your character, specifically of Nancy? Because in my opinion, she's one of my favorite horror characters ever. I feel like she's just such an integral part of the whole series. You have Freddie and you have Nancy, and all the best movies are the ones that have.
I think, yeah, you want to have two sides of the coin, you know. I think it's more satisfying as an audience to know that you can root for somebody, and what I find a lot of horror movies are you're rooting for the people to die, you know, and like, oh, who's going to be first? Oh my God, he's next. You know, that's like your whole game you're playing throughout the movie is like, and then when someone dies that you weren't expecting, like especially like in Game of Thrones, like people are like freaking out, but it's always about who's dying now. And I do believe that we really love to have someone to root for. We love to have a hero who's actually heroic and kind of remind us, oh, that's what a good person can do, or that's what a strong person can do. And I find that people always comment on that when they meet me, is that they use Nancy for that, if, you know. And I was even telling my dad, because he visited yesterday, and he was so excited to see all of the fans. And, you know, he's an old guy, and this wasn't part of his upbringing, but he was amazed at how many people said, you know, I used Nancy as such an inspiration, you know, that she gave me a person to kind of follow and believe in and look up to, or help me in my hard times. And there's just not that many characters like that. And I know, like, I loved Wizard of Oz, you know, I loved Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I wanted to be like her. And I think in a lot of ways Nancy is my bringing my thoughts about Dorothy to like this character of Nancy, and just how sensible and how loving and sweet Dorothy always was, but very, very strong. So I think Dorothy is actually the final girl for me. And has anyone seen The Wizard of Oz lately? I mean, it's such a great movie, and I think that's kind of a lot of my inspiration for Nancy. And also Ripley in Aliens. You have to go there, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But that goes to Wes. Like I really give him a credit because he loved women, and he loved the antagonist, the protagonist, to be female. And I was like, you know, not too many dudes do that. You know, write and direct like that. Maybe
Yeah.
I have more questions. See one over here.
Okay, in bathtub scene, I just got in here just now. And the bathtub scene, was it claws are coming out? And how was that like set up, and how did you feel about that?
We were just talking about that scene. So, I mean, not here, upstairs, we were talking about it. So, they built a bathroom set on the second floor of the studio, the Desilu studio in LA. It's on Cahuenga. Old studio. I Love Lucy was shot there, and it never had changed since the 40s. It was really old. But they built the bathroom at the second floor. So under the bathtub, they could build a, I don't know, probably 10-foot tank. It was plywood, but it must have been sealed with something, or they must have found a plastic tank. I mean, they didn't have silicone back then. I don't know how he made it, but it was just like a big tank. And he, in a scuba suit, with a regulator, the whole thing, was in under me the whole day. And every time we spent the whole day shooting that shot, because if you look, there's about 10 angles. There's above, below, side, close up. It was a big, long day in the bathtub. But each time that they wanted Freddie to stick his claw out, the scuba diver had a claw on his hand, and he would just reach it out and push it back in, reach it out. And Wes would bang on the tub to say, do it again. And it was really a lot of work. And then I'd have to get out so they could warm the water up again. So that took a lot of time. And then we'd have to wait because they needed to put more bubbles in. And I mean, there was a lot of technical things that they hadn't really thought about. So, because these guys are pioneers, they're making it up as they go along. When we did the scene where Freddie comes through the ceiling, like reaching over me, that morning they're like, how are we going to do this? And they went out and bought a couple yards of spandex. The guy had this bright idea overnight that this would be a really great way to do it. And they stretched the spandex across the ceiling at a kind of an angle and then had Robert in full glove costume and everything just press himself into it, and they kind of held him by his belt, so he could just lean in and then pull him back and make it. I mean, it cost about $17 to make that scene. So that.
Didn't you get sucked down into the water into that?
Yeah, well then when I get sucked down into the water, the scuba diver grabs me and I go down. You see me go down. But then everything else they did in a swimming pool in LA where I'm under the water, but it was a stunt woman, like with that great body. And then she's like, struggling. And then you see me come back up. And we did that on the set too. But everything under the water was in a swimming pool. Everything above the water was me with the scuba diver. And I'm balancing on a little 2x4. I could never, my butt wouldn't fit on that anymore. But it was like a 2x4 halfway down the bathtub, and then there was a 2x4 at the end of the bathtub where I could rest my feet so that the scuba diver could be like under me and reach between my legs. So really original way of shooting a movie.
I remember, I think while you're doing it, we're all playing cards. Is this in the same studio with the revolving?
Yeah.
So she's doing that, we're bored. Nobody gives a shit. She's up there working. Actors at that age are like, when am I up? So you're playing cards. And I remember then I was bored when Tina was revolving, but it was a stunt woman, blood, and then she splashed and blood flew from the room and hit me in the face. And I was like, oh, that's creepy. And we're all playing cards. But nobody, it's state-of-the-art effects. Nobody gave a shit. It's the first job. You're young. You're thinking about just this, at least for me, I'm thinking my scene. The movie's about me in jail.
That's so true. Well, the funny thing about that day is because Wes was he was a very modest person, and he was more embarrassed about the bathtub scene than I was. Like we're having a closed set, no one is allowed. Because he was so embarrassed that I was going to be in very little clothing. And so it was just me and Wes and the cameraman and maybe 1 or 2 grips or something, and the producer, but that was it. And then we do about, 2 or 3 hours of work, and I'm getting out because they're gonna warm the bath water up, and the producer, Bob Shea, comes over and he says, Heather, I'm really, really sorry about this, but we found like a paparazzi photographer up in the catwalk of this old studio all morning long. And I said, no way. And he's like, got rid of him, don't worry. Of course, he didn't take his camera or his film. So flash forward, I never really knew where these pictures were going to show up, but I knew that they would show up. I'm like just dreading it. I wasn't nude at it. Maybe one point I was nude, but I had this like more bathing suit kind of thing on, but I knew it was going to be an embarrassing shot, so I didn't see him for a long time. And then one day, my husband, who was just my boyfriend at the time, said, oh, I want to take you over to my grandmother's house and introduce you. And she was about an 80-year-old little lady from the Philippines. And I looked down on their coffee table, and there's a copy of Celebrity Skin, like just sitting there with my picture. But it wasn't open to the embarrassing picture, but they just wanted to let me know that they had seen it. And I was so embarrassed. So nowadays it's so much worse because of the internet. Things go around the world 10 times before a minute has even passed. So I felt pretty lucky that it took a couple years before I saw the picture.
The stunt, I had a stunt guy, but one day I typed in Nick Corey naked. I want to see if anybody got shit on me. And they got they got me slamming on in underwear, and I'm like, that dude's hot. That is not me.
I know you're
That's not me.
But it is.
It's not me. No, that's a stunt guy. So, because my girlfriend's
You
like
said you
that.
had a six-pack.
I had a 6-pack when I was running from John Saxon, and I got my leather jacket open, and there's a shot of my 6-pack. But this dude, he was way too. I didn't go to the gym for that.
Oh, so he was
just
cut.
anorexic,
He was really
skinny
cut,
6-pack.
yeah.
But this guy was packed, and I was like, that's not me. And he's really doing great stunts. But I had to tell people no, because I got people sending me stuff.
Right.
Hey, hot Nick. I'm like, that's not me.
No, I think when you have your stunt people, you feel so grateful to them because they're usually like, yeah, really great bodies and they really like.
Nice butts.
Yeah, but if you see, I think there were 2 or 3 stunt women who did a scene in the fire scene where I run up the stairs and Freddie's running after me on fire. That's a stunt woman. Underneath the water when I'm fighting with Freddie in the bathtub, that's a stunt woman. And then I think there's a couple of fight scenes in the bedroom where we're like wrestling each other on the ground, and I think there was a stunt woman on that scene too. So, but not that many stunt people. I mean, we didn't have that many stunts from like.
The flyer guy.
Oh yeah, Tony Caesar. He's a very famous stuntman who does fire. That was the longest on fire burn up until that point and for a long time. Because if you look at when I first set Freddie on fire down there with the match, he catches on fire in the basement, and then he runs up the stairs and then out the door. It was probably, I don't know, 5 seconds, but that was considered a really long burn at that time. I think he did probably get quite long. You know,
He was great.
he was a really good stuntman.
All right, who else has a question? Here we go.
I always loved the show, just the 10 of us, and I loved your reference to Elm Street on the very first episode.
Yes.
When you first walk into the house.
There's a knife in the cutting board, and what do I say? Do you
You
remember?
said something like, this is just like the Nightmare on Elm Street. or
Right,
something.
right. No, the young man who played my brother, Matt Shackman. So he really, in true life, was a huge makeup effects fan, and he, on the weekends, would rent out a little space at K&B or one of the makeup effects houses at the time, and work on his sculptures and make his latex masks. And he was really, seriously, wanted to do that as a career, not be a lousy actor, right? And then as he grew up, he ended up going to college and went to Yale drama and came back to LA, and now he directs Game of Thrones. He's like one of the biggest directors in Hollywood, yeah. And he came to visit me not too long ago, and I gave him a set of Spock ears that my husband and I had from Star Trek Into Darkness. I thought, and here's a guy like who's just so worldly, been around the world doing all these important projects, and I just thought he was going to die. He was like so excited. It was nice to do something that.
I keep flashing. I think we hadn't seen each other for so long. And I went to the Oscars. Somebody invited me to the Oscars. It was so weird. She's coming out of a limo with an Oscar. I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? She goes, my husband won.
That was at the like the Vanity Fair party. I know. It was so funny.
I was like, hey, nice to
I
see
know.
you.
I went. I
And she
mean,
came out with the Oscar or something. I was like, did you win?
I carried it as long as I could
was
without
weird.
people like. Well, my husband was wearing these rings that night that are really big, and they were scratching it, and
She comes out of the limo
so we
with an Oscar.
noticed that he had already scratched it up with his ring, and I'm like, I'm carrying it from now on, and so it was really just so it wouldn't get so bummed up.
I was super jealous.
I'm jealous. Holy crap! I know. How would tell?
I see a hand back there.
Yeah.
And your husband's David Malloy.
Yes.
And so I know he worked on Dawn of the Dead. And did he work on Pet Cemetery as well?
Yeah, so that's how I met him, is through Wes Craven. So he started his movie career working for his dad, who was Lance Anderson, and it was called Lance Anderson Makeup Design. And Lance did People Under the Stairs. No, they did Shocker, Pet Cemetery, and no, that's not Wes Craven. I can't remember the name of the movie now. Serpent in the Rainbow, Shocker, and one more. It might have been People Under the Stairs. And anyway, so he worked with Wes Craven, and my friend invited me to the wrap party for Serpent in the Rainbow, and that's where I met David. And then he's gone on to do, he was Charlie Sheen's makeup artist for many, many years when we first got married, so we went all over with Charlie, and that was really fun. And then he decided to get into makeup effects more, and joined his dad in partnership, so they've done like just, I don't know, a lot of movies, but Cabin in the Woods I think is and Star Trek Into Darkness, And you know, we've done, this is our 6th season of American Horror Story, so I'd say those are the 3
Oh, you
things
guys do
that, yeah, we do all the makeup effects. We just did a one called Ratchet with Sarah Paulson that's really great, and I saw that you have this psychiatric museum here. It's all about the early days of psychiatric medicine, like in the 40s, when it started becoming lobotomies and aversion therapies and strange electrocution, and all these therapies were trying to help people, and it's really scary. It's not a horror movie, but it's like all the gore that we made is so gory, it's disgusting.
I was gonna ask, between the two of you, you guys collect a lot of horror memorabilia, and what, you know, if you have
No, I don't collect.
pieces.
I mean, I have my pajamas and I have a few things from Nightmare on Elm Street. And of course, when we work on American Horror Story, we store a lot of that stuff so that they can use it later. We did Twisty the Clown, so we have like the original Twisty, and we have a lot of like the Red Devil. We made the Red Devil for Scream Queen. So we have like a lot of that kind of stuff. And we don't usually give tours of our studio, but I think at some point I should like make everything look really nice and invite people to come see it, because it's a really cool museum. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really neat.
like San Francisco,
Like the
Lucas's.
oh yeah, that place is really
I forgot
incredible.
what it's
Yeah.
called, but Lucasfilms.
Industrial Light and Magic.
They
Yeah.
have the original door.
Right. You can see all the making of Star Wars there. It's really cool. So maybe I could convince Ryan Murphy, who does all those shows, to have a museum in LA. I think it would be really popular, because he's done so many shows now that are scary and they have great makeup effects. I mean, and we have to do them so quickly now because you only have a week or 2 to turn around like a full-on burned-off skin gag or something. So we know how to work really fast, Mr. Producer, if you ever need makeup effects. I know he's retired. Dang.
All right, we got any more? There we go.
I could listen to you guys all day, but I was wondering if you have any other stories you could tell us.
Nick, well, I call him Jay-Sue, so he has lived a much more like high-style Hollywood life than I have. He's the one who like rubs elbows with the rich and famous. I don't. I have a good story.
You came out of the Oscar.
I know, but I haven't been out of the house for a week.
The Vanity Fair party she's talking about, she comes out with an Oscar, and I'm holding Sally Kirkland's shoes. She's like, oh, we won the lottery. Would you like to go to the Oscars? That's it. There's 2 ways to go to the Oscars.
Right.
You're either somebody's bitch, which means you're carrying their shoes. That was me. Or you won the Oscar.
It's not that much.
No, I had a lot of my stories of. I've been around. I've seen. What did they say? I have a friend that says, "I know how the sausage is being made." So you know how the meat's being made in Hollywood. And you're like, oh, I don't think I want to do that. And I finished a 3-year picture I was co-directing, and my friend goes, I don't think you want to make another movie again. I'm like, you're right.
What's the name of
The
it?
Mystical Traveler documentary film I did,
Oh,
I
yes.
shot on a red. It was incredible. She's right. I mean, you start to learn. By the way, I'm a freak fan of American Horror Story.
Oh, I'm so glad.
During my really down period, a friend was dying. I watched Up to the Circus.
Oh,
You know, the great thing about this series is they hired the same actors.
I know, it's the
Jessica
best.
Lange plays the same role. I'm in love with her, and then everyone else is in there. And I was like, this show is bitchin'. And I saw the Lady Gaga show.
Oh, yeah, that hotel.
All
That
the
was
way,
great.
and they play like Fleetwood Mac music. This shit is the bomb show.
No, I mean,
The
it's
psychiatric one was incredible.
yeah,
And then
that,
I went up to the circus where the clown is some freaky shit there. It was, I think that was my growing up in Coney Island and Funhouse. That show brought me into like,
really, that's
wow,
where you grew up?
it was all like freaky, distorted, and I was like, this
Scary.
is where I need to be at during my depression. The distortion of life and everything. The show was great. But all in all, at that period, I finished sort of I did Atlas Shrugged, I worked with big movie stars, Mel Gibson. At the end of the day, they all go to the toilet and they're the same as us. If you take everything away, they're just like us. And
Sometimes if you take everything away, they're way more boring.
they're way more boring.
Because especially now because of the cult of celebrity, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to lead a really average normal life, that you find that they don't have the opportunity to experience like everything that's out there because they're afraid. They're afraid to be in public. They're afraid to some have to fight off crowds, but work with paparazzi. So a lot of people like kind of live in their houses, I'd even say, I have friends who they're afraid to go out. And so as a result, at the end of the day, for those folks, I actually feel really lucky because, I've always prized trying to be as private as I can, knowing that I love going to the outdoor flea market and trying to get some vendor down on a $3, butter dish. And if they knew that I was at a Langan camp, they probably wouldn't let me get away with it. But there's just aspects of normal everyday life, going to the gas station, things that you really don't think are special or important that actually are special and important. And a lot of folks who want the celebrity and want the fame forget that they have to give up that stuff. And I'm glad. I really, really try to have a super normal life that way.
There's the curse that we play with is, and you immediately have to overcome it, is youth. Our youth is plastered on a film or on the internet forever. So then as you're getting older, you're going, damn. And
Six-pack, man.
so you have to move.
Give it up.
You have to give it up and go,
Yeah.
I'm not that anymore.
It's
But
really hard.
sometimes you get brought that. You're that. You're
Why aren't
this.
you that anymore?
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
I got old. But I'm honored to be here with the fans. And I'm blown away when two 16-year-old girls are asking me for my autograph.
I know, it's crazy.
That means our film is going to keep going. And I want to be like Sid. When you're 80, fucking sitting there signing $60. And then there's 20-year-olds. And to me, I appreciate all of you guys. This is actually more exciting to me than a set where it's ego trips. And it's that's the issue that I have in learning about my ego. And then how do I work with just sacrificing my ego? That means I don't want to kill myself. But I put my ego, which is emotions and thinking about my life, and put it aside and just serve. And when I come here, hey, I appreciate your money in my pocket, but I really like to see you guys because I go, well, this is America. This is what buys the tickets. I need to come and serve. And so I'll see babies, older folks, everything, and I'm like, some people are weird. They dress up, and I'm like, all right, this is America, or this is the world, and this is the canvas in which buys our tickets. So therefore, I bow down and go, thank you. Thank you for it all. I'd rather be here than on a set, actually. And when the shit is crowded, like on a Friday, Saturday, it pays a lot more than a set.
Well, I can't beat that. I think that's exactly how I feel. And thanks so much. And hopefully we'll be back soon. And bring some of our other friends with us too. It's always fun to have a big group.
Yeah.
And it's our 35th anniversary. So happy anniversary.
Well, that wraps it up for us, you guys. Let's give another round of applause.
Yeah!